Okay, so sorry for the delay, Kalpana and Ashwin. I know some technology kind of a thing that not very much familiar with, and I hope you all will bear with it. But now onwards, I think it will be a great session, hoping to take it further, right? So once again, a warm welcome to all of you who have taken out time from your schedule and be a part of this learning space. So I'll start with the recording and we can, so is it recorded, Akanksha? Is it continuing?
Yeah, Renu, it's being recorded. You can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So we are here for the book reflection that is The Inner Game of Stress. That is authored by W. Timothy Galway. And we move on. Akanksha, how shall I go to the next one? That is, again, I've shared my screen, but then it is not moving on to the next slide.
Yeah, you just have to click. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, thanks to Jaya for giving me this opportunity to hold this space with you all. And thanks to Timsi and Akanksha for their hard work, effort in organizing and coordinating, right? So before we move on to the presentation, let's know a little about the author, right? And he's said to be the godfather of the modern coaching movement. Born in 1938, San Francisco, California, lives in Malibu, and his education is from Harvard University. He started his career as tennis player and he captained his Harvard University team. As an author, he has produced a series of best-selling inner game books. And this inner game goes from sports to music. And also now what we are going to discuss about is the inner game of stress. He is founder of Inner Game Corporation, and he aims to develop Inner Game International School. And I would say, and we should appreciate the broad vision that he has, that he wants that all these inner game tools should be available globally to everyone so that they can take the best out of it, they can use it to their best, and also this would help them in achieving their goals, right? So this was about the author. And when I say inner game books, so there is something that is the bottom line. And what is that? That is the inner game. So from the author, what is this inner game all about? He says, there is always an inner game being played in your mind, no matter what outer game you are playing, and how aware you are of the game that can make the difference between success and failure in the outer game. I think we all are enjoying IPL matches these days, right? And very interesting, very exciting matches last over, and the cricketer is having 2 balls and he has to just take it further and bring the team to win. At that time, what is the player having that inner dialogue with him? Is he getting anxious, or is it that he's able to defeat that and he is just pushing through it and he's able to achieve what he's looking for, right? So if I talk about a sport, if I talk about performance in organizations, if I talk about any performance on stage for that matter, or if I talk about performance in life, when I say inner game, it is like winning or losing first in the mind before we lose it in the reality. So this is my understanding about this inner game. I would request you all also to contribute if you have read the book or your ideas on this, because this is what understanding I take from the inner game. And honestly, before that, I would like to share one example that when I volunteered to take up this session, that time also I was having an inner dialogue with me. What will I do? How will I do? Will I be able to do or not? Because it's my first attempt to conduct a book reflection. So that inner game, that is definitely going to show on the outer world what exactly the game you are playing inside. और छोटा सा कोट यहाँ पे जनरली हम लोगों से पूछते हैं कैसी चल रही है जिंदगी, है ना? So some people say, yeah, मस्त है, बिंदास. What is that external? It's coming from what is within, है ना? And some people say, oh यार गाड़ी चला रहे हैं बस और कुछ नहीं. So again, that is a reflection of the kind of game you are playing within yourself. So I would request you to please share your thoughts on this. How would you take it up?
Can I go, Kalpana?
Yes, please. Yes, Ash.
So, Renu, first of all, thank you so much for doing this session. When I saw this message, I started reading the book. It was long pending, yeah. So I'll be doing my ACC now in May, and this was a part of pre-course work. As far as the inner game is concerned, yes, I read partly the book, half. Certainly, what you said, I totally agree. I see it in two ways. One is, if we look at any beautiful structure or any piece of art, let's say Taj Mahal, Eiffel Tower, all of that was first made inside somebody's mind, right? The beauty, the inner, the inner beauty, love, truth, all of that came as a formless inside, and that was channelized outside.
Right.
So certainly, I totally agree with you. Second, out of my own experience, for some part of my life, I was also basically a health coach.
Okay.
And, yeah. And what I saw was a lot of people who were just trying to focus only on outside, which is, protein, carbohydrates, and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So they were never able to achieve what they wanted to. But people who healed themselves internally, there were a lot of blockages, and the symptoms were thyroid or, some other hormonal imbalances. When the inner world was kind of, corrected, outer fell in place. So that is my experience.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. I agree. Yeah.
Absolutely agree with Ashwin as well as with you, Renu. And like Ashwin said, thank you so much for doing this book reflection session. I've also been reading the book because it's a pre-read material for us. I went through one quick read while I was traveling, and then, but that was just a quick read. So now I am actually going through it slowly, trying to also practice the exercises that are there in the book. So, and that's why I was so keen to attend this session as well, because when somebody tells you something, you tend to remember more. So, but yes, I completely agree with how this whole inner game works, and I mean, it works very often with me. And so, for example, I had to work on an assignment where the client, I don't know why, for some reason, she just told me that I'm not sure whether you'll be able to do it. And I've been doing this for years together, and she knows me very well, but still she said this. And, having said when she said this, it just planted that seed in my head. And that whole inner game of failure started in my head. Oh, what if I'm not able to deliver? What will happen? And then I just told myself, take a break. I left everything. I went out for the day, and I came back telling myself, you've done so many of these so what if she's told you it, you won't be able to do it? And that very minute, the whole thing turned around. And so myself, one was talking all the negative things to me. And yeah, also, so it happens with me when I learn, I'm learning to sing. And, there is this whole thing in my head that I can't sing on the higher octave. So whenever I sit down to do my riyaz, and if I have to do it on the higher octave, I start with that thing in my head. Oh, but how will you do it? You can't do it. And then I have to consciously drop it and I see the change. So this whole inner game is always at work, whether we realize it or not. And it's important for us to start recognizing that that inner game is going on.
Yeah, thank you, Ashwin and Kalpana, for your inputs. And if I conclude this, I would say it is a psychological drama, actually. And I am the director. How do I direct this drama? That will decide what will be my outer game. So if I direct it well, I'll enjoy it. If I don't direct it well, or it's badly directed, definitely it's going to be a flop. So so that drama. And the best part is that the author, he says and tells you that you have the choice. You have that power within you. So that we'll explore as we move on this in the session. But yes, it was to be mentioned here only because, as Kalpana said, one thing the other person said, it is like an identity thief that acts upon you, and he that voice that is coming, it just takes you to shutters, right? You just fall down. Okay, kya ho raha hai? What is happening? And then you have to gain that, and we are having the wisdom. We are having that power to be aware of, to be having that wisdom, to have that clarity. So that all components we will explore as we move on the way into the session. So thank you once again. And one thing which I again feel that author tells us that in coaching context also, we are reading this book as a part of our coaching journey. So how is it going to help us in our coaching journey? So what I read from the author's lines was that he says that sometimes our thoughts, our feelings, our motivations, they are not even invisible to us. They are invisible. And when they are invisible, but indirectly they are impacting us. We don't even come to know कि वो impact आ रहा है. And the way we see, the way we think, the way we feel, we don't know the root cause of it. So when we do coaching, I think we all have learned about address the who, not the situation where the individual is, not the environment the individual is, but actually how is he thinking about it? How is he seeing it? How is he feeling about it? Because he is not able to see. So we bring about that mindset shift, we can say, that we can help as coach to that individual so that he can see that perspective and he can work on his inner game. Right. So in coaching context also, I think the inner game refers to that as a coach, I am able to address the who of the coach, of the client side. So this is what I have understood from this inner game in the coaching context. What are your thoughts on it?
You want to go, Kalpana?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, absolutely what you said, I agree. My single takeaway from the entire or the half book which I have read is awareness. The word awareness, right? And if we can make the client more aware about what's going on and how these two selves are in conflict and what is illusion and what is true. So yeah, the word awareness is very key learning for me for coaching.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Kalpana?
Absolutely. I think it's that whole competency of evokes awareness, and like I was saying, even when I spoke earlier, I was saying that it is for us to be aware that our self one is taking charge of the self too. And if we can help our client also to get aware of this whole who's really overpowering or dominating, I think that itself. So, for example, I'm just sharing an example. I was I was leading a leadership development module, and I had some of my colleagues who were also working with me on this. And in the middle of that session, one of the colleagues had to go for a meeting with his supervisor. And he knew that during that meeting, he's going to be asked to take on some very challenging assignments. And he came and told me that I am very worried. I will not be able to do it. I don't know how I will do it. So all I told him was that this is your self one talking to you and telling you that you can't do it. Tell that self one to cooperate with you and to become your partner in doing this, and go take that challenge. And he went for the meeting, came back after half an hour, and he said, thank you so much for that one tip. You know, it's just changed everything for me. It's changed his career path for him, because he was able to confidently accept that challenging assignment. So it's just about evoking that much awareness that it is just a game that is being played inside our head.
Yeah, awesome, Kalpana. I would say making even a small transformation in anyone, getting that gives you such a good feeling within that, okay, whatever you are learning, at least we can bring it to the practical world and we can help somebody with that. That is really awesome. Great. So now we move on to the book reflection. And before that, let's set the context. The book is divided into 3 parts. As you said, you are learning and you are reading the book also. So the part 1, it talks about the game of stress. And as we talked about inner game in the previous slide, I think those principles remain the same anywhere we talk about. And when we talk about in the context of stress, what are the inner game principles here? And being aware of our stress makers or voices that disturb you, that create that stress in you. And also here, very beautifully, stress has been compared with fever. So that also we would like to discuss about. And stress is okay. Stress is okay, definitely. But when it goes beyond, or we can say chronic stress, then it becomes, the body doesn't find it okay, and we just get into trouble there. So we will also appreciate life's, the body's wisdom, that how it is committed to create the balance in the body. So why not minds can be also brought to that balance state? Why does it go haywire? So this is what we'll talk about in part 1. Part 2 talks about outsmarting process, stress. And when I say in this part, the author talks about that we all have a phenomenal gift of consciousness, which we can use to crack the stress. Because when we learn the principles, we know what our inner resources are. When we have that faith in the inner resources, when we bring them from the dormant state, actually they are inherent, they are there, but we never try to just bring them to the surface, because always it is said, no, negative things, they pop up easily, they come on the surface easily. So when we talk about stress, all the negative thoughts, they are first to emerge, and then we need to go to the depth of ourselves and find out those resources within ourselves, and fend off these stressors by creating a shield using those inner resources, and be the CEO of your life. So this is what we'll be talking about in part 2. And the part 3, that is having 8 very, very simple, but yet practical, valuable, and effective tools that we can use to combat these stressors in our life. So as the time won't permit us to take up all the 3, so the agenda for today is only the part 1, which we'll be talking about and we'll be discussing about. Who needs stress? Our 2 selves, meet your stress maker, an alternative to fight, flight, freeze, gearing up and gearing down. Now, since it is a reflection session, I would request that we can reflect upon the last few hours of our day and think about anything that created or that made you react. React in the sense you got aggressive, you got irritated, or you got hurt, or you got insecure, any kind of a reaction. Any one thing that you remember, or when you just go back to your last few hours, anything that comes up in your mind.
Actually, I'm thinking not because I don't have any stresses, but I'm just thinking which to talk about.
Good one, Dasapa. Thank you for joining, Dasapa. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm a little late. I just joined sometime back.
Most welcome. Most welcome. Yeah.
So these things happen on a regular basis, and it's very difficult actually to understand. It's easy to read and understand, but it's very difficult to practice. I mean, stress is something that is there all the time, and we don't realize it till after the reaction and after the whole damage is done.
Yeah. So that is what
Very
inner game is
difficult.
all about, no, Dasapa? That we need to practice that. That is the essence of the book, actually. So
Sure.
choice we have, how to practice, we know that is given in the book. So
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
the problem? I think we can go ahead with that. But yes, we take stress as an inevitable, what we say, part of our life. And आजकल तो even a nursery child says कि मुझे बहुत stress है. छोटे से बच्चे को बहुत ज़्यादा stress है, हम तो बहुत ही बड़े हैं फिर भी, right? So stress is like something everyone is just talking about, right? So anything that came up, Ashwin, Kalpana?
Yeah, I mean, it's not from today or yesterday, but pretty much this week. We sold one of our house, and the broker who was in between, I realized that overcharged us.
Okay.
So it was post the transaction, and there was this feeling of which just came up within, which was to basically call her up and kind of just give a piece of the mind. However, I think there was a voice of wisdom too, which said that जिसको जितना मिलना है उतना ही मिलेगा. So don't stress out and just be cool about it. And more the transaction was done, so there was no point of doing. But then I also kind of wrote a healthy message, kind of feedback, which kind of gave a feedback to her that if you do like this, word spreads, and it's better to be fair in business.
Yeah. Right. So it can be a small thing like the maid didn't turn up, or it can be like for a student, it is exams, which can be kind of a stressor. Or in today's modern world, I think if I'm not getting likes or if I'm not having followers, that also creates stress in the youth these days, especially. And if I talk about other common stressors, like it can be illness, or it can be retirement, it can be marriage, means any kind of a thing that we can call as a stressor. So these stressors can be anything that we are talking about here. But the point is, where focus goes, energy flows. What actually we are doing, stress is like electricity, we need it. Yes, we all agree to that, we need it. But if it is too high, what happens? What happens? It fuses the bulbs, it damages the electrical appliances. So same is happening with us. Because what are we doing? We are just piling up. The stress is feeding upon stress. That is where focus goes, energy flows. So when it gets piled up, suppose, for example, if I have mental overload, what do? I won't be able to concentrate well in my work. And that gives me another stress that, okay, now I'm not able to function properly. So that chain goes on and on and on. So this is how we understand that, okay, these are the stressors and we are doing it this way. We are just piling it up. The inner game, the inner stability that this book talks about is that we are able to develop that stability within us so that we are able to resist in the sense that we are not affected by this particular stress. We should work at the root level. We will get advices like do meditation or listen to music or do some exercises. But I think that will be a very temporary kind of what we call it as, okay, phase, right? But again, something else emerges. Again, you will be stressed. So basically, what is that? Foundation has to be stronger. What we have to work is on the foundation so that we know life is just a roller coaster, up and down every time. Maybe sometimes it is certain that you will be facing stressors. Sometimes it is not even, you don't even know. Predictable bhi hote hai, non-predictable bhi hote hai, but then how am I within? I think that will decide my way of handling or my way to be stable within so that I'm not affected by the stressors outside. So I generally use an acronym which I learned from somewhere. It's called PCR. Whenever any emergency happens on the road, we call a PCR. So that PCR comes to rescue you from that particular situation. But for me, that acronym is like pause, choose, and then respond. So that PCR I call for myself every time when I feel that, okay, this is how, because that is the way how I can be what I want to be. If I say I want to be peaceful, then I'll have to work for it, no? And I'll have to have that stability within me. So we all have different stress temperature. Some people might be having low temperature, just like fever. It goes from 98 to 105. Similarly, when we go on piling the stress, that fever equivalent to like your stress temperature, that also goes on. And what happens when we have high fever? What do? We seek for medical advice, right? We stay at home. So what does that mean? That means then talk to yourself. How are you talking? Are you giving that rest to yourself or not? Because you can't manage 105 like that only. For that, you'll have to work a little more, right? So this exercise is really interesting. Ashima, hello, welcome. Okay. And then the third one is generally when we say stress, it says pressure. We always relate the word stress with pressure. But if I say stress is equal to pressure upon resilience, then what? Then the equation changes. We all know that resilience is our inherent ability. We all have it. But how much do we exercise? हमारे लिए सिर्फ वो stress is equal to pressure wala equation is more dominant. That is what we always have understood. But I think if we put resilience there in the bottom, in the denominator, I think then it will be easy for us to take the things. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just one thought. Can we also say resilience is directly proportional to enjoyment?
To?
Enjoyment.
Okay, fine. Then it becomes I want to. When I say pressure, it says I have to. And when I start enjoying means I want to. So that creates altogether a different mindset. And honestly, as I was sharing in the beginning also, when I volunteered for this session, I used PLE triangle from this book. I didn't worry about performance. I said, I'll read the book. I'll enjoy reading the book and let me learn what all I can learn for myself. So that gave me not as a pressure, but it was like a challenge. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do this as a challenge, and I love challenges. So I enjoy that thing. So this is how we can talk about stressors, which is a part of everyday life. Yes, we all are affected by this. We all have our stress temperatures, but then how do we take it? Do we take it as a pressure or do we take it as a challenge? And for this inner game that provides one line, choice. One word, I would say. Within you, what's your choice? What you really do want. So then it will be how we work on our inner game, right? Okay. We experience stressful situations every now and then. Do we all agree? Yeah. Some situations we handle easily. The other, we are not able to. Hum to wahi hain. We are the same. But then how we are able to handle some situations and we are not able to handle the others. Because anyone from you would like to add on? How much influenced are we of the voices that are happening within us? If we are able to work on that voice that is creating stress for us, we will be definitely able to enjoy, learn, and outperform. I am the same, our two selves. When we talk about our two selves, it is like self one and self two. And when I say self one, it is all the interferences that we have. I worry, I doubt, I'm anxious, I'm nervous. All these things are said to be the interferences that we have. But self two, we all have the natural abilities, as I was discussing with you earlier, to be aware, to be hopeful, to enjoy, to be creative, to be curious. So all these things we have within us, but they remain in the dormant state. We need to access these abilities so that we can just reduce the interferences that we have. So the equation that comes out from here is that inner game is performance is equal to potential minus interference. So how do I excel in my performance? It will be possible only when the interferences are less. So the two selves, self one and self two, how many of you, or even I'll also share my example, how many of you have ever experienced the self one coming up and then self two about yourself? Anyone who would like to share?
I think it's something that keeps happening all the time. It's only something that we don't realize that it is there. The moment you realize that there is a voice that is talking to you, then you know that it happens all the time. And sometimes it works on a positive note, sometimes it works on a negative note. And when it works on a negative note, that's when the pressure builds up, right? So that's when the stress or pressure, as we call it, builds up. I constantly have this, recently this incident that happened was, I have moved out of my corporate life and doing something of my own right now. And 1 year into it, struggling for finances and, the pressures of doing something of your own. Again, the pressures are from the inner voice. There comes another gentleman that I know who has worked with me in the past, and he calls me and says, why don't you come and join us back to the corporate? So that was a moment when I think this inner voice was swaying both ways. It was like almost for a week, I had to deal with that because the inner voice is saying, hey, take it up. Sometimes it says, don't take it up. So all the pros and cons it's throwing at me were all the inner voice that was talking to me, right? So it was the interference that was happening for a decision that I've taken a year back on my way forward. And it was very difficult to sift through the whole bunch of voices that was happening. But eventually I had to write it down. What I did was I wrote down these voices. So what is my inner voice talking? In fact, I had a talk with my wife, and she was the one who said that, why are you confused? So I said, I'm confused because my inner voice says that. So she said, you take a decision and stick to it, right? You take it. So then I wrote down all the voices that was happening inside. I just listed down all the voices. And then I started thinking about each one, the pros and cons. And then I took a decision to stay back. So it's a you go through those ups and downs. The voice sometimes makes you want to give up everything, build so much of stress in you. So like you rightly said, and in the group also I posted that about pausing.
Yeah.
It's important to pause. And these guys were pressurizing me to take a decision. So I said, if you're pressurizing me to take a decision, you take your decision, whatever you want. I will have to sift through these voices and come to a decision. If you're in a hurry, please go ahead. So maybe that was the decision that I will be happy with. So finally, I took a decision to stay back, and I feel good about it. So yeah,
That's true. That's true. Clarity helps you achieve. You come to your maximum potential that you can do, and whatever you can do. That clarity is again when we work on it, right? As you said, you wrote down all the points and then you did that exercise. I think that is where we have that ability. Right. I was just listening to a video, and Sadhguru, I don't know whether you know about or not. So he says that all the animals in the world, they are structured in just one manner. Okay. So they can't go beyond, they can't go above. It's only the human beings who can do all that they can, right? They can go to the limits. They don't have any limits also for that matter. So as clarity comes as a what we call it as our natural ability, and that helped Dasapa to take up that decision, and I think that worked for him. Same, I think we all must be having many such examples in our life. So when I left my job in 2017, I was clear that I want to be at home with my kids, and I want to do something of my own. So I left 25 years of teaching. I just gave a stop there, and then I started. So again, what happens is, like, for 6-7 months, you are in a turmoil, whether I did the right decision or not. Abhi kuch bhi nahi hai. So you just don't have a routine. So you just think about what to do next. Did I do it for the right, or kuch galat to nahi ho gaya hai? So all these voices, then again, as Dasapa said, I wrote down, what did I leave for? Right. So let me focus on that now. I wanted to be with my kids, so let me enjoy with my kids. Right. If I want to do something different, then I thought of coaching and all that. So this is how it started. So clarity definitely helps us a lot in our journey of life, and beautiful life that we all have got. Right. So stress makers are actually self-one is the stress maker, the nagging voice in our minds, the internal dialogue we have with ourselves, as we discussed about right now. So we have these in the form of identity thief. Okay, so when I say, I can't do it, it's a question mark on my identity, that okay, I'm just thinking about, I have a doubt about myself whether I'm able to do it or not. So it can be an identity, I'm a failure. So these kind of statements, when you are getting from inside, that just gives you it acts like an identity thief for you. But again, if I say I can do it, so that I can do it gives you that power, and then you can have that inner game on track, and then you can perform on the outside also. So these are all the stress makers which can ignite fear. For example, as a very good example mentioned in the book also, I got a small lump somewhere near the neck when I was taking bath, and it just created that fear. Oh God, abhi kya hoga? What will happen? I'll have to show it. Kahin cancer to nahi hai, and all that. That what happens is a train of thoughts. It starts. तो कई बार मैं ये सोचती हूँ that I think more than heart attacks, we have thought attacks that happen. So that starts on, and one triggers the other triggers the other. Then it promotes negativity. Midnight में किसी का phone call आ जाता है. Oh God, we just start shivering like anything. किसका call आ गया? I don't know what would have been. So negative thoughts सबसे पहले surface करते हैं. So that is what. Someone posted about you on Instagram, कुछ Twitter पे कुछ किसी ने comment कर दिया. Then that also creates negativity, right? And then we have self-attack. We attack ourselves only. You should do like this. You should not have done like this. You could have done like this. वो हो गया. Right, that is done, but still we keep on, that voices keep on troubling you, and as a result they create the level of stress in you. I think we all have such experiences in our life, right? Kuch galat ho jata hai. Abhi, as Ashwin, you were saying, no, ki paisa zyada le liya, but then it has happened. But you think about, I should have done this earlier, I should have talked about, ya kisi se aur se consult kar lete. So all these voices that just create stress in our body. And then the last one is false expectations. If I am dark, I'm not beautiful. Agar main fair hoonga, tabhi I am beautiful. So this is like, we set up some expectations for ourselves. Okay, if I fit into that, I'm fine. If I'm not, then for me, success might be that I'm very contented person. For me, it is not like, okay, achieving something very big in the organization, ya koi post and all. But for someone, it might be. And if he's not able to achieve that, usko yahi lagta ki wo log zyada khush hain. I think they are more happy because they have a chair. They are having that, what we call it as a designation in the organization. They are having such a big car. They are having such a big house. So all these false expectations also somewhat are the stress makers in our life. So actually, the first part of the book is only talking about, okay, these are all the things which are actually happening. So which are leading to the stress, and the alternative to fight, flight, and freeze. We all have learned history, and we know our ancestors, when they were food gatherers or they were hunters. So what they used to do was, like, they used to live in caves. So kabhi bhi kuch attack ya animals aate the, to they had their own mechanism to fight, flight, and all that. And even we, when experience, suppose I'm scared of dogs. So if I just happen to see, so what will I do? Either I'll freeze myself. Okay, ab ye chala jaye, apne aap hi chala jaye, so that will be better. Or if I say a road rage, there we experience that, okay, you start fighting because he did, unhone apni gaadi laga di hamare sath mein, to that creates a response kind of a thing, which is fight, flight, or freeze. But is there any alternative to that? Apart from these responses, do we have anything else that we can do? I just request you to add on if anything can be.
I have been obviously struggling like everyone, because this is the most natural response: fight, flight, and freeze. And in me, I think right from childhood, I've seen anger has been a very prominent emotion. Of late, I've been practicing basically presence and awareness. An idea is that choice which we talk about, which is the automatic response. Before that, if there is this layer of awareness in which these thoughts and perceptions and feelings are coming and germinating, the choice to not react. But having said that, Renu, I've been struggling, honestly. It's not that every time I think of it, but the action is
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It needs practice, Ashwin. Definitely, it needs practice, and I think. But if we know, if we are aware, then definitely, if we practice it more and more, I think that would help us for sure. Because every tiny step that adds on to your to your journey. So definitely, we can work on it more and possible. But the only thing here, as is talked about in the book, is that we as human beings are the most evolved ones. And we are thinking beings, actually. So when we are thinking beings, and we can reflect upon, we can step back from the situation, see from an outer perspective, and we can analyze that situation. That is, as I shared, pause, PCR, that is pause, choose, and then respond. So maintaining that deliberate calm within ourselves so that we can see situation from a different perspective, or I can bring about a change in my shift in the mindset, that would definitely help. So alternative to all these three kind of responses to stressful situations, I think when we talk about our own selves as human beings, we have that edge over all other organisms, that we can access that uniqueness of our brain, and we can work on it, right? And the sociology of stress says self, others, and society. Stressors come from these three areas, right? It comes from others, it comes from society, it comes from self. Okay, so but where is the key to regulating our stress system? This is a question for all of us.
Self for sure.
Fully.
We can't control anything that is happening in our environment. We can't control any situation that is there, but yes, we can control what is here. This inner is manageable, because this is where I am the king or the queen. So this is where I can have all my ministers at place and I can do the work, right? But bahar kya hona hai, I can't have any control, right? So last one, that is gearing up and gearing down. The entire day we are gearing up, gearing down. It's automatically what is happening, right? We are having our entire day schedule. I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then gearing down is like rest or relaxation or something like that. But the kind of demands we have these days, wo gearing up bahut zyada ho jata hai. And once we come to that, tab bhi agar manage nahi ho raha hai, to then we start taking stimulants. Ab chai le aao, ab coffee le aao, abhi cigarette le lo ek, and all that. So that you think it helps you to gear up more, thoda ek level aur upar chale jaoge. So I think this also adds on to our stress levels. Very beautifully mentioned in the book, it says that what we say, agar hum body ke wisdom ko samjhe, right? The body is committed to be staying in balance. For example, if I say the body, we need all oxygen, but when we are exercising, obviously we need more energy levels, more oxygen and all that. So the system, the circulatory system sets up in a way that it gives you that energy required to carry out with the activity, that oxygen supply is made available. And then when the exercise is done, again, it gears down. So gearing up and gearing down, but it maintains a balance. There is a homeostasis word, which in biology we talk about. homeostasis that maintains a balance. But then what about when this balance is disturbed in our mind and emotions? So time to think. Dasapa took a session on time to think. I think I just add on that time to think here in a context that, are we realizing that these all are contributing to our stress levels, or they are actually within you only? There is nothing that can affect from outside. It's how you think, how you see, and how you feel. So the three magical words, it's my choice. So when I say it's my choice, I choose to build inner stability. I choose to evolve beyond being bullied by stress. I choose to value and protect my life and to live in balance. So this is all that we had for part 1, which I wanted to share and had a reflection on this component of the book. So any any thoughts you would like to share, or did you really get something if you had not read it earlier? So did it add on to some understanding of what this book is all about?
I think you stopped at a very, very crucial point, and I think it is making us think for the next session.
Yeah.
I was in fact wondering how you would break it up, but I think it's really nicely done, because you left us with this thought of all this being our choice, right? And the book starts like that, and then it goes into what are the choices you can take. So of course, the heart attack to thought attack was something that I've taken away, no doubt about it, because that's a good word. And actually, I've not thought about it that way. In fact, if you actually put it, I mean, you put it really well. You know, heart attack comes because of thought attack. It's mostly what we think. And I think that's what you were talking about. It's the difference between animals and human beings is the capacity to take our choices and to think, right? And that thought is where we decide whether we want to fight, flight, or freeze at any moment. Those are the outcomes, the reactions that we want to take, and whether we want to take those reactions or any other reaction is something that's our choice. And you beautifully put it. And I think I really enjoyed listening to you talk.
Thank you, Dasapa. Thank you for your such encouraging words, and coming from you, definitely it means a lot. Yeah. So Ashwin, any thoughts?
Yeah, it was beautiful, Renu. Thank you so much for creating this environment, holding the space. Lots of learnings which have added to what I learned from the book. I think certainly for me, heart attack was very, very important. Already said by Dasappa. In a team equals to performance minus the interference. This is very, very powerful learning. It's like a capsule which you gave us. So thanks a lot. And also, I think the very important is about the natural body intelligence, which we already have access to, but we are not listening to it. We are listening to it.
Yeah.
So you said body is committed to stay in balance. And if we just tap into that intelligence, it can
Yeah. Right. So thank you all for your presence and making this space a learning space and interactive space. And I leave with this thought that let's first go through this part of it. And in the next session, we'll take it further from here, because by the time actually we'll be clear about that, okay, what is this game of stress actually about? And then in the next one, what are we going to do it about this particular game of stress? And then the third section will be about what are the tools, what are the things that I can use to work on this. So thank you all for your presence, and it means a lot. Thank you. Shall I
Thank-
stop the recording?
Thank you, Renu. Thank you so much.
You.